Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
Okay, we're rolling. Friday night, it's Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 75, getting close to that year and a half mark, James. And so, for everybody watching, we are going to kick things off with Name That Stadium, like we always do. Then we're going to, I think today, briefly hit the news from this past week. After that, we'll jump into the main part of the show, which is going to cover our Week 15 power rankings and game picks. And last but not least, we'll close things off with question of the week. And so, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. It's been a week. It's been good enough a week where it's time for some whiskey.
Sipping on the whiskey. I'm jealous, man, but good for you. It's good to indulge every now and then. In both of us, it's been a while, so yeah, we're due. So I was having a harsh realization the other day that we're like a couple weeks away from the end of the season already. And I had like a little bit of a panic mode because I feel like maybe this time every year I start to be like, geez, I just haven't watched enough football this year. And so now I'm like desperate to watch every game that is on TV. So yeah, pretty wild, man.
Yeah, and you'll have plenty of. We'll get into the news. You'll have plenty of days where you have a chance to watch football this coming week.
Yeah,
And
and I'll let you explain that because it's too much of a mess for me. I've not been able to follow it yet. But all right, let's move it on here. Let's do Name That Stadium. And so for everybody who's watching, this is the part of the show where, as you can see, James is out there traveling the country. Every week he's got a different stadium in his background. While we're in the regular season like this, it's typically a stadium for a home team that's playing this weekend. And so what we're doing is we kind of turn it into a little bit of a game. If you think you know what stadium that is, hit us up in our comments section. First person to get the answer right gets a special shout out next week's show. And so, James, why don't you tell us where you were at last week, man?
last week I was at what's it called? State Farm Stadium. Is that the name of it? Wherever in Arizona. I know the week I missed, you had picked it, but I did it for it was the Rams at the Cardinals, and I thought that was going to be the best game of the week. Didn't necessarily live up to
It was
the
pretty
bill,
close.
but it was pretty close. So
I got you. Yeah, and I think I followed up when I used them. I think they were on the road.
yeah,
So I wasn't following our rules, but hey, I was pinch hitting, and it is what it is. So, all right, well, hey, that's cool, man. And so, yeah, nice pick. You had some good inspiration behind it, and I thought it was a good game from everything I read. I didn't get to watch it, but those are two of the top teams in the power rankings fighting it out, so I can understand the logic behind the pick. Okay, so let's move on here. Let's do our recap of the past week. And so basically, James, you were talking about, you were kind of like hinting at like some scheduling changes, and it's all related to the freaking COVID Omicron variant. Million people in the NFL testing positive in like a 3 day span. Why don't you tell me what you know, man?
so I was a little bit surprised that it actually happened because I thought like at the beginning of the season or coming in the off season at some point, the league said that they won't be rescheduling games for because of COVID, and it'll be on the teams and vaccinated players, et cetera, whatever. But so this weekend they postponed from Saturday the Raiders Browns game, which will now be played on Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. I had to do the math, just trying to figure out if it was Eastern time or West Coast when I was looking at the schedule. And then the Washington Philadelphia game is postponed, and the Seattle and the Rams game are postponed from Sunday afternoon to Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, which it's interesting that both games are being played at the same time,
Hmm.
but especially since one's on the West Coast, I figured they would stagger it a little bit. But so, and that's because of the COVID. Like something like 20 some players on Washington tested positive. Like, all the all the quarterbacks and the head coach and a bunch of other players on Cleveland tested positive. I think like the entire coaching staff besides Nagy for Chicago tested positive. And I didn't catch, I haven't caught much about the Rams um, this week.
Okay. I heard with the Rams, Jalen Ramsey is on the COVID list. I don't know if he tested positive or how it worked, but they're expecting him to be out for the game. That's all I heard though about the Rams.
Yeah, but he was out this past week too. So
Hmm.
yeah, so the Browns more than 20 players, including 11 starters,
Okay.
is on the
It,
list.
it's going to make the picks interesting this week for sure. And so,
Yeah,
and I will say this, and I had this note. I was going to save it for later when we get to the picks, but like the Browns, I remember last year they had a similar situation where Stefanski was out and a whole bunch of guys were out, and they still fucking won the game. And so
yeah,
it's
but
like,
and that was a playoff game too, wasn't it?
was that what the maybe the first week of the playoffs? Oh
Yeah,
man, I just remember being blown away, thinking like, how the hell did that happen?
yeah, I swear like that was like the first week of the playoffs. I For some reason that was ringing a bell that it was the Pittsburgh game in the playoffs that they won.
Oh man, yeah, that's intense if that was in the playoffs.
And plus for him to test positive, like I mean, he just had it and just tested positive last year. So
Yeah, yeah, and I saw Sean Payton test positive, so he's out this weekend. Not good. Um, you know, I mean, everybody is getting hit. I'm not like calling out Sean Payton. I'm just saying, another head coach since we're talking about Stefanski.
yeah, I hadn't heard um about Sean Payton. Like I hadn't heard much about the Rams either, so it's probably why I'm kind of in the dark on them.
Yeah.
But and all these postponements is after because on like a day ago, like yesterday, or the day before, Baker basically blasted the league for still playing the game.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking. I can see Von Miller's also out for the Rams. Looks like they've got 9 players in total added to the COVID list.
Wow.
Whoa, whoa, which hang on. 9 players added this week puts them at a total of 21 players on the COVID list.
Jeez.
Holy shit, man. See, I don't know. That could change my pick now that I'm seeing that. Oh, geez, it's crazy.
Yeah, there's been just a ridiculous amount of COVID cases this week.
All right, while you're looking up that Cleveland game, I'll just skim through a couple of the other things from this past week. Um, I think the big news was Urban Meyer being fired by the Jaguars. And we'll talk about that when we get to our question of the week, James. I'm just going to tell you that. So, save whatever you have on that. But he's out. Um, Looks like Lamar Jackson, the last I heard, he was going to be out for this weekend. And then I just, as we were pulling this up, saw John Harbaugh made a comment about how he's got a chance to play. And so we'll see. This is a big game this weekend between Baltimore and Green Bay. And so I'm sure they'll want him in that game. But he's dealing with an injured ankle. So we'll see what happens. Other than that, Lions tight end TJ Hawkinson, he had surgery on his hand, and so he's done for the year, which is a bummer. I mean, shit. I mean, I will say this. It's a bummer, but I actually have been pretty excited to see Amon-Ra St. Brown getting all these targets these last couple weeks. And he's young. It's not like he's been lighting the world on fire, but it means that he's gaining trust and they're giving him a chance. And, he could be a more significant player for this team next year, but they need to keep feeding him the ball this year to help kind of foster some of that development. And there's really nobody else to throw the ball to anyhow, so they might as well just freaking accelerate his growth and development as much as possible, my opinion.
Yeah, so I found it, and for Stefanski, it was the playoff game.
Jeez, man, that's so insane. And yeah, and they freaking won. uh, yeah, hey, it's the NFL. Any given Sunday, James. Any given Sunday.
Yeah, it doesn't have the list of all the players that were. So it was Joel Bottano, the
Oh yeah, the offensive lineman.
offensive lineman, and let me see who else. Players: Denzel Ward, B.J. Goodson, Andrew Sadejo, Malcolm Smith, Kevin Johnson, and Harrison Bryant
Okay.
were all missing in that playoff game.
Jeez.
That should tell you about how much frickin' Pittsburgh dropped off last year.
Oh yeah, I mean, didn't Big Ben throw like 4 picks in that game? I mean, it was horrible, man.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
So hey, I skimmed through the news. If there's anything big that you want to hit on, let me know. But that was pretty much it that I was calling out. So just
The
letting you
only
know.
thing I remember was Hopkins had surgery. I forget exactly what it was for. Something on his knee, and so he's out the rest of the regular season at a minimum. It's like a 6-week turnaround for the surgery or rehabilitation. So if anything, he'll be back for second playoff game, I think it was.
Who is this?
Hopkins.
Oh,
DeAndre Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins. Oh, geez. Holy cow. I heard something about he might miss some games, but I totally missed that. Wow, man. So he had a procedure on his knee. He cleaned it out.
Yeah, I forget the exactly what was done, but it was like 6 weeks.
Oh, man. Wow. Yeah, that one just went right by
Find
me.
it real quick. Uh, yeah, it was 2 days ago. He missed the regular season. Hopkins is expected the rest of the regular season with the sprained knee suffered on Monday night. He sought a second opinion. I thought he had surgery, but this isn't saying he had surgery.
Okay.
Uh,
Well, maybe they're putting him on the shelf, just saying, hey, you need to take this much time to let it heal.
this is like,
And it's
oh,
tough with Hopkins, man. I'll tell you, his whole career, he's been on the injury report for something.
yeah,
But it's impressive that he, most of the time, still plays.
yeah. So he had surgery to repair a torn MCL.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, he actually tore some shit. That's not good.
Yeah. If they advance deep into the playoffs, so it's a minimum of likely a 6-week recovery.
Man, that's a bummer. That's a bummer because that could actually affect that team. And they've
Yeah.
been freaking on fire this year. I don't like hearing that. But that's a part of the game. They're not out there having a little pillow fight. It's a little more serious than that. Okay. Anything else news-wise?
No, I think that was it. Like that's all that's sticking out of my head.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, injuries, but injuries are
There's a lot nowadays.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Oh,
hey.
they
Oh,
changed the COVID rules to allow for faster player return for vaccinated players.
gotcha. Yeah.
Two PCR tests that are either negative or produce a CT value of 35 or greater. Uh, PCR tests or produces a MESA test, so it's just like more options for them to return. Apparently, the CT is cycle threshold. Apparently, based on their studies, if it's the cycle thresholds hold whatever the fuck that is 35 or greater, they will still test positive, but they can't transmit the virus.
Okay.
So they kind of just modified it a little bit to make it easier for vaccinated players to come back.
Gotcha. Well, good to know. Good to know. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay. Well, let's move it on then. Let's hit up our week 15 power rankings. And so, James, I will just pass the ball over to you if you want to give me your 1 through 5, man.
All right, so at number 1, I have the Buccaneers. They won last week, and Arizona, which I have at number 2, lost. So the Bucs kind of jumped up. My number 1, my top 5, I have to work on it a little bit more because I don't like how it's sitting.
Yeah.
I don't really think Tampa Bay's the best team in the league, but it's just kind of how it fell with with
Yeah, sometimes the win
buys and
losses,
wins and
I get what you're saying. Sometimes the win losses maybe, kind of guides them into a spot, and then you got to just take a week and sort of like gut it, reset it based on, okay, yeah, maybe the records look like this, but you believe that this team's still better or whatever, and you got to make that hard move. But I hear what you're saying.
yeah, and I mean they are tied for the best record in the league, so I mean that is something.
Oh,
At number
definitely.
at number 2, I have Arizona. They only dropped one spot after losing to the Rams. Um, you know, Arizona just kind of always loses to the Rams, but I think this team is a solid team. I had to drop them because they lost, but I still think they're a very well-rounded team. I mean, the Hopkins stuff kind of hinders that a little bit, but I mean, they've been able to win without him. They've been able to win without Kyler. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's just they have enough talent on the team to overcome the Hopkins injury. At number 3, I have the Patriots. They didn't play this past week. They were at 3 before. The more I'm looking at it, I can realistically see the Patriots making it to the Super Bowl this year.
It could happen, man.
I mean, their defense is playing incredibly well. Their offense is doing enough. And Mac Jones, they're not asking too much of Mac Jones, kind of easing him into things. I mean, hell, they just won a game where they threw three passes. So
I know it's so wild, man. Yeah.
at number 4, I have the Packers. I didn't move them because even though they won last week, I mean, I'm not going to give them much of a benefit for beating Chicago. Chicago's like one of the bottom tier teams in the league. And honestly, if anything, after that win, I think the Packers probably should have gone down.
And
Because
Rodgers owns them.
yeah, yeah, and because I mean they allowed 30 points against Chicago, so the
Yeah.
defense did not show up in that game. Chicago's offense is not that good, and so I left them at 4. At number 5, I have the Rams. They did just beat the Cardinals. I had them a little bit lower on the board because of how they were playing, and they kind of move up. Theoretically, they split with Arizona. They might be playing better now than Arizona, but I couldn't drop Arizona out of the second spot, and I couldn't take the Rams much above the Packers because I think they'd lose to the Packers. I think they'd lose to the Patriots. I'm not sure about Tampa Bay, but so I have
Yeah.
the Rams at 5, and they got a 3-spot bump for their win against the Cardinals.
So I know exactly what you're saying with the funkiness in 1 through 5. And so I've got the Rams up at 1 this week. And, I had Arizona in my top spot last week. And so I was like, geez, could I just hold tight with Arizona? And I thought, I don't know, man. They swapped wins, and then I was looking in the Rams. They've now won 9 of their last 10 against Arizona. And it just, I don't know, all these things. I was like, okay, so I let them float up the board. I'll tell you what, James, I was actually awfully tempted to move New England to my top spot. But New England was on a bye, and so I was like, it just doesn't make sense. It's like it's like you either just have to take a week and just gut the board, or sometimes you just got to let it flow. And we're both just kind of letting it flow this week, and that's okay. I think as we get into that final week of the season, that's like the last chance. Okay, let's gut it. Here's who we like. Here's what's going on. Now we're going into playoffs. This is what you got to be looking at. But yeah, for now I put the Rams up at 1. I moved them up 2 spots. I kept Green Bay at 2. Like you said, not like a huge win against Chicago, but I didn't want to penalize them either. And so then I dropped Arizona down to 3. So I dropped them down 2. And I still think, the Hopkins thing's tough. If he was still playing, I would probably say that I think Arizona is a better rounded team, but the Rams are a better coached team, if that makes sense. But that's okay. At 4 and 5, I've got the Bucks and the Patriots. I kept them where they were at last week. Tampa Bay, I like the win over Buffalo, but I'm starting to sour on Buffalo, and I've kind of had that feeling for a couple weeks now. And then obviously the Patriots were on a bye, so I just kept them where they were at. But yeah, man, back to you at 6.
All right, so at 6, I have the Chargers. The Chargers just beat Cincinnati. Sorry. I'm sorry. No, they just beat the Giants. My bad. I got games confused in my head. The Chargers just beat Giants. It wasn't that impressive of a win, but so like they didn't get a bump for that. After last night, I'm glad I didn't give them a bump because I'd just be dropping them down after last night's win. It was a tight game, and last night Giants. Let me talk about the Giants game, not last night's game. Giants scored way too many points against the Chargers. The Giants were able to run the ball, which like every team has run the ball. Giants are a terrible team. There's no way they should be scoring 21, 20 plus points against
Yeah,
against a top tier team. And so that gives me some pause and some concerns with the Chargers. But they stayed the same this week. Number 7, Dallas stayed the same. They won. They played Washington,
yep,
and it was a close game. It is a division game. I think Washington. I'm higher on Washington than you. Are we like right around the same now? But it's like I'm constantly impressed with what I'm now seeing out of Washington. So I didn't want to penalize them for how close of a game, the Dallas for how close of a game it was against Washington.
agreed.
At number 8, I have the Bills. They dropped 3 spots. I'm really frustrated with this Bills team. Like this Bills team should be really really good. And it's it was a close game against Tampa Bay. It was just another reason why Tampa Bay jumped up to the number 1 spot because they did beat a team I had in the top 5. I expected it. I changed last minute to pick Tampa Bay last week. I just something about Brady against the Bills that told me.
Yeah,
But overall, the last few weeks, the Bills, there's been a lot of issues I've seen with the Bills, and not a lot of positive. And they have to turn it around coming into the playoffs because they went from basically vying for a top seed to now they're going to be lucky to be a wild card.
yeah,
And how almost at this point making the playoffs might be a surprise for the Bills the way they're playing.
yeah. They're fizzling out, man.
At number 9, I have the Colts. Now, I know the Colts beat the Bills. I know the Colts destroyed the Bills, and I understand that. But I didn't feel comfortable moving the Colts coming off a bye.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that. There's
And
nothing wrong with that.
so I left them at 9. At number 10, I have the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to my top 5 after this past week. I've they beat the Chargers yesterday. Patrick Mahomes is starting to look like Patrick Mahomes. I have Mahomes on my fantasy team, and like late in the third quarter, he had like 15 points for my one of my fantasy teams, and then at the end of the game, he ended the game with like 40 some points,
Nice.
and it's just one now that defense is playing better. Yeah, they allowed a lot of points against the Chargers, but I mean the Chargers are that type of team that can score a lot of points, and also with they had it wasn't D Ford was out, but they were missing Chris Jones too, I believe.
Okay.
I think if I remember correctly, they had some players out on defense that really gave me concern with changing my pick last night, changing it to the Chiefs, but something just told me that the Chiefs were going to win. Luckily, they did. They pulled it out in overtime, and they came back to pull it out in overtime, which was impressive. But the week before, they just utterly dominated the Raiders. And I told you, like the last time going into last week, the time before that Patrick Mahomes looked like Patrick Mahomes was the last time they played the Raiders, and felt like a ultimate get right game for them. And then they followed it up by playing the Chargers, playing really well against the Chargers, even though the defense allowed points, but they had players missing.
Gotcha. Well, moving it over to my side, I've got the Chiefs at 6, and I'm with you, man. They totally rolled the Raiders. And it was interesting going into that game, or I'm going into last night. Sorry. They've now had 3 games in a row with 10 or fewer points. That obviously changed last night, but it just goes to show the defense has kind of gotten it back in check, and that's helping this team big time. At 7, I've got the Titans. I moved them up by 2 spots. Um, this was a combination of them winning and other teams losing, and it just, kind of compelled me to give them the bump. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have moved them if other teams in this range hadn't have lost because they beat up on Jacksonville. Not a big feat. At 8, I've got Dallas. I moved them up 2 spots. And this was me kind of like, having a little bit more respect lately for Washington, kind of like you're saying. I know that earlier in the year, man, I dropped them off a cliff, and it's taken me a little bit while to get back on that bandwagon. But, I do believe they're playing great football as a team. And I thought that that was ending up being a quality win for the Cowboys. And so I moved them up 2 spots. At 9, I got the Chargers. I moved them up 2 spots as well. And, like you said, I mean, they played the Giants. For what it's worth, they've now won 5 straight against the Giants. I don't think that means shit to anybody, but it was just a fun fact I picked up, I think, on NFL.com. And then at 10, I got Buffalo. I dropped them down 3. And like I kind of mentioned earlier, I'm just starting to sour on Buffalo. And so they're sliding down my board. They just need to come out and kick the shit out of somebody so that I'll have a little bit more faith in them because all of the talent is there. I mean, they have the traits of a Super Bowl contender, but they're playing dog shit football, man. They're sitting at 7-6. There's no reason for that. And so they're sliding down my board for now. I got them at 10. And yeah, back to you at 11, man.
All right, so at 11, I have the Titans, and they got a 2-spot bump. I wish I could have bumped them up more, but I mean, they only scored 20 points against Jacksonville, and everybody's scoring against Jacksonville, and so they got a 2-spot bump, but it's also because of the fact that 2 teams ahead of them lost and got dropped down. At 12, I have the Browns. Basically, they got a 2-spot jump also. What happened with the Browns is they got, let me verify that real quick. Yes, okay. They kind of got lucky in that game. I mean, I understand why Harbaugh went for 2 with that last touchdown. I completely understand it. But that score's not right. They lost by 1. Or is that the week before?
I think you're thinking the week. I don't know.
You're right. That's the
yeah.
week before. Yeah,
All right.
that is right. That is right because
I could have
because
fat fingered it, James. You never know.
no. It was the week before they lost uh, to Pittsburgh 20-19.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
So the thing with the Browns, and this is the 12, 13, 14 is a little quirk in my power rankings. But what happened with the Browns? They came out and they got a big lead, and then they let I don't even know what his first name is, Huntley, get them drive the Baltimore back into the game, and heck, even Baltimore, I believe they recovered an onside kick in that game too. So it's like Cleveland just kind of let them back in the game and barely pulled it out against the Ravens. But they did beat the Ravens, so I moved them ahead of the Ravens because they were so close. And the
Yep.
Ravens dropped down 3 spots to number 13. Um, and then Cincinnati dropped 2 spots. They lost to San Francisco, which is very unimpressive. They showed a lot of fight in the game. The little quirk in my schedule or in my power rankings is I have Cleveland, Baltimore, then Cincinnati in my power rankings currently. But based on the remaining schedule, I think the division's going to end up Cincinnati, Baltimore, Cleveland.
Okay.
Because I think Cincinnati has a fairly easy schedule remaining. Let me see if I just had it. No, I'm not finding it. But
I got you.
it's
Yeah, so we're gonna see them kind of climb up the ladder as these last couple weeks play out. I got you.
yeah. So I looked at them kind of they're going to be winning the games.
Well, I know they're playing Denver this week, but
Yeah,
after that, I'm not sure.
they got Denver, and like the only hard game is like the last game of the season. They play Baltimore, I believe. I want to verify that,
Okay.
but it's like, all right.
Well, and that
So
that would set them up to control their own destiny. And the last week's all divisional games, I believe, so that would make sense.
so they have remaining. Oh, heck, it's not. It's a little bit tougher than I thought, but Cleveland's last game is against. Is it Cleveland that has the? Anyways, I just like the Bengals to at least finish out the season 3-1 and take the
Yeah,
division.
pull
The
ahead.
last game of the season is against Baltimore, and I believe are against Cleveland, and it must be Baltimore that has the easiest schedule. That
Okay.
because I think somebody finishes the season with Baltimore, and yeah, so it's Pittsburgh that finishes the season with Baltimore, and Baltimore's remaining schedule is no, no. All right, I remember something differently. I still think that the Bengals are gonna take the division based on how they've been playing, based on their opponents. I have concerns. I do have concerns, but I think Cincinnati's going to win the division. At
Okay.
number 15, I have the 49ers. And yeah, I know the 49ers just beat the Bengals, which I have 1 spot ahead of them, but there were a lot of concerns I saw with the 49ers in that game. There's another instance where the 49ers jumped out to a big lead and then let Cincinnati come back in the game and almost actually win the game. And the 49ers just are not playing good football right now. And so I didn't want to drop them because they won, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to bump them up because I see a lot of issues with that team.
All right, so I did the double move here, James, on my side. I flipped Cleveland and Baltimore at 11 and 12. And so Cleveland ended up actually going up 3 spots to get ahead of Baltimore. Baltimore dropped down 4. And then at 13, I got the Colts, who were on the bye. At 14 and 15, that's where I did the second move. I flopped Cincinnati and San Francisco. So San Fran went up 4 and Cincinnati went down 3. And so with the 49ers, I'll say this. Their record gives me some confidence to put them in the top 15, but I agree with you. The play has been streaky. All the highlights I see, they get like a sweet play from like Debo Samuel or like some random, Brandon Ayuk comes up with like some, game winner or whatever, and then everything else just looks horrible. It looks like sloppy football. But they're finally, I guess the record's showing that they're winning games. And then with the Bengals, it's tough, man. I wasn't super high on them to start the year. I thought it was going to take more time because I like Burrow, but I just felt like they needed to put more pieces, like particularly on the defense, which has been playing pretty good this year. But I warmed up to them, and then I kind of got sour on them, and now I'm like, yeah, like I'm looking at 15, and I'm kind of like, I like that spot for Cincinnati at least for right now. So you know. That's my 11 through 15, homie. Back to you at 16.
All right, so at 16, I have the Saints. They went up 2 spots this week. Yeah, they played the Jets. Yeah, everybody plays good against the Jets. It is more of a function of the 2 teams that were immediately ahead of them lost. So I gave New Orleans the credit and gave them a 2-spot bump. At 17, I have the Washington football team. I thought they played tough against Dallas, so I didn't really kill them that much. But they did lose, and so they dropped down a spot. The Raiders, this was one of those other ones where if it weren't for the fact that the Seahawks allowed 13 points against the Texans, a team that's has no talent whatsoever and is just ridiculously bad. They allowed 13 points against them. If it weren't for that, the Raiders probably would have dropped further, but I didn't want to drop them below Seattle and give Seattle a bump for beating the hapless Houston Texans, which I have Seattle at 19, same spot. Broncos moved up 1 spot. This is more of a function of the fact that I killed Pittsburgh for losing to Minnesota, sorry. And so a bunch of teams got a little bit of a bump here, and because I killed Pittsburgh, which is Pittsburgh I had at 20. So that's the Broncos. I'm not giving them any credit whatsoever for beating the Detroit Lions. No credit whatsoever for even winning that game. That game.
Yeah, you just smoked Pittsburgh, and so the board had to adjust.
Yeah, exactly.
I got you. All right, so for me at 16, I got the Dolphins. It was tough. I dropped them 1 spot while they were on a bye. I just didn't feel comfortable putting them above Cincinnati, and so it's just the way the board worked out this week. At 17, I got the Vikings. I moved them up 2, which was, I mean, just freaking sweet seeing Dalvin Cook tear it up for 205 yards and freaking 2 touchdowns. At 18, I got the Washington. I almost called them the Washington Redskins. See, it's like muscle memory, James.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I dropped them 2 spots. We covered them pretty good here. At 19, I got Pittsburgh. I also dropped them 2 spots. And I do want to just say this. I thought it was a bad look, Tomlin calling out Chase Claypool's maturity. I get it. It's the NFL and coaches do this stuff. But when I read that article, made me think of this thing I saw from Lou Holtz years ago. He had this thing where he says, you praise in public and you criticize in private. And I don't know. Tomlin likes to call out his players publicly, and it's the NFL. You got to do some of that stuff, I guess, in press conferences. But I'm just calling that out for some reason. And then at 20, I got Denver. I moved them up a spot. Yeah, they beat the Lions. They shouldn't have a huge jump, but just the way the board moved, everything like that. 1 spot I thought was good. It was a solid win, so I wanted to give them something for just how commanding of a win it was. But let's not forget Detroit had like fucking 20 guys out with the flu or something. I mean, it was a bad combination of events for the Lions. So, and I do like that Denver won it. It was like with the Demaryius Thomas thing. It's almost like the week before the Lions won it, and it was like right after the Oxford High deal, and then Denver got it right after the Demaryius Thomas deal. It's like sometimes those emotional things they can come into play, and I know Denver really it mattered to them. They had a lot of guys trying to honor him in that game, and so it was cool to me. Back to you at 21, man.
At 21, I have the Dolphins. Even though they didn't play last week, they moved up one spot, and that's just purely because I smoked the Steelers. 22, same thing with the Eagles. They moved up a spot even though they were on a bye. It's because I smoked the Steelers. 24, the Falcons. I'm sorry, 23, the Vikings. They moved up 3 spots. One spot because I smoked the Steelers. 2 spots because they beat the Steelers, and I thought they looked pretty decent in that game. For what I've expected from Minnesota this year. 24, I have the Falcons. They moved up 3 spots. This was more of a correction for having Carolina ahead of them, and the fact that I smoked the Steelers had nothing to do with not whatsoever impressed with how Atlanta's looking this year. They just happened to win, and there was a readjustment because of the teams they won and the team ahead of them that lost.
Sure.
And then at 25, I've mentioned them many times, I have the Steelers. They dropped down 5 spots this week. This team, while you talk about Tomlin calling out Claypool is a child. He's complaining about not playing music at practice. He's more interested in TikTok than playing for the fucking team. He's got that Juju Smith-Schuster mentality, and he needs to fucking grow up.
So now you're gonna criticize in public, James.
I can't criticize in private to him.
Well, that's true. So no, I mean that's what our show is all about, right? We just bitch and moan about everybody. So no, hey, it's we should, if Tomlin's watching, hey, next time you want to call a guy out, just let us know. We'll do it for you. That's all I'm saying. And then he can keep it all positive. Oh yeah, this guy played good. That guy played great. Well, what about Claypool? We're talking about this guy today. We're talking about that guy today. Just don't even acknowledge that somebody was a dipshit. Just be positive.
So speaking of Tomlin, one of the sports talk radio shows I listen to regularly, every once in a while there's this guy that calls in, and he happens to be from Pittsburgh, and he claims he's not Mike Tomlin,
Okay.
but his voice sounds exactly like fucking Mike Tomlin.
It's a voice doppelganger.
Yeah, and exactly like the host has asked him a couple times, "Are you sure you're not Mike Tomlin? Because you really sound like Mike Tomlin."
The passion and everything. Oh man, that's funny. Okay, so over to my board. I got the Saints at 21. I moved them up 2 spots. Then I got the Eagles at 22, who are on the bye. They stayed put. At 23, I got the Raiders. I dropped them down 3 spots. And so, I'm just losing a little bit of faith in the Raiders is what it is. And so they slid down the board. That's just all it is. At 24, I got the Seahawks. There was no bump despite the win. I think you called that out pretty well. Nothing deserved there for beating up on a bottom feeder. And then at 25, I got the Falcons. I moved them up 1 spot. I will say this. When I was reading up about that game, it was surprising to see they've won 4 straight against Carolina. And I know Carolina's been bad, but Carolina's had those bursts of wins. Like this year it was at the start of the year, and I think last year it was at the start of the year. And I guess I would have thought at least 1 or 2 of those would have been against Atlanta, but hey, good for Atlanta. They got 4 straight against a divisional opponent. That's good for any team, really. So back to you at 26, man.
26, I have the Panthers. They dropped down 2 spots. The Panthers. What to say about the Panthers? They lost to the Falcons. They need a quarterback. In fact, the fact that they don't have a quarterback might get what's his face? Not Judge, not Brady.
Rule.
Thank you. I was just drawing a blank. Might get him fired at the end of the year because this team is not progressing like it was expected when he was hired.
Yeah.
27, I have the Giants. the Giants need to clean house. They need to get a new GM that has no previous ties to the Giants. They need a new coach because whatever Judge is doing isn't fucking working there, and they need a new quarterback. They need to trade Saquon. They need to blow up the entire franchise and
Go
rebuild it.
nuclear. Go nuclear. Yeah.
In fact, coming into this week, I was tempted to put the Giants behind the Jets
Oh.
on my power rankings, and that should tell you how much I think of the Giants, because I think the Giants are in much worse place than the Jets are.
I think, not to like jump in and go on a tangent here, but I think if we're looking forward to next year, I think the Jets are better than the Giants. But I think that's because they're a step ahead in the rebuild next year. Next year, it's like that's ground zero for the Giants, and the Jets are already like a full year into it. And so I can see it. It's like they're on different paths right now. The Giants are imploding, and the Jets are like just like establishing their foundation a little bit. That's all it is.
Yeah, and the thing with the Jets is the Jets have what seems to be a potential franchise quarterback there. The Giants, it's clear they don't have their franchise quarterback, and I could bitch about the Giants for a while. Like it's just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
28, I have the Bears. The reason the Bears didn't drop for the loss is because every other team behind them lost. And I could not justify putting them behind any of the other teams behind them. So they stayed the same at 28. 29, the Lions, they stayed the same thing. Every team behind them lost. So I couldn't make any adjustments there. 30, I have the Texans. And yeah, I say the Texans have no talent, but they beat the Jaguars, and if I remember correctly, didn't they beat the Jets? Or am I thinking of?
That sounds right.
No, they did. They lost to the Jets.
Oh, well, my bad.
I was thinking when I was looking at it, I was thinking they beat the Jets. It was 21-14. I knew they played. I just couldn't remember the score of the game. The Texans. I mean, hell, let's start. Davis Webb is not a true quarterback. Davis Mills. There's a Davis Webb that's a quarterback too. I don't know from where, but Davis Mills is not a quarterback. They don't have.
Yeah, Davis Webb was with the Giants. I'm not sure if he's still there, but I like him as a backup, and I like Davis Mills as a backup. I think Davis Mills is a backup with upside, but good career backup kind of upside, not like starter upside. I don't know. Maybe one day he could have that jump, but I don't know. Well, all right, hang on, because I got this in my notes here. Let me just pull them ahead here, because no, I'll save them. You go ahead. I don't want to keep cutting you off.
So, I looked at it. Davis Webb is on the Bills.
Okay.
Huh. Really?
Yeah, I think he was drafted by the Giants.
Yeah, he was drafted by the Giants, third round pick. Wow.
Yeah, they had high hopes for him, and it just never really, for a mid round pick, they had high hopes for him. But and I don't know. I don't think he's disappointed for a mid round pick. The dude's still bouncing around in the league.
Well, he spent 1 year with the Giants, then he was on the Jets, and now he's on the practice squad for the Bills.
Okay.
So that's why I said Davis Webb instead. There had to have been a reason.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
But the Texans, they're 2-11. They have tied for the second worst record in the league. I had to do the math real quick to make sure 1.5 was less than 2. Yeah, that's just what kind of day it's been.
Yeah.
Mills, not a quarterback. They've basically gotten rid of anybody with talent on that team, and somehow they have 2 wins.
Yep.
Who's their second win against? I wonder. I'm just curious because it was I think it was another unexpected one. Yeah, they beat Tennessee.
Yeah, that's why Tennessee's been hard to trust this year.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, on to you with 26 through 30.
Oh, thank you. At 26, I got the Giants. I dropped them down one spot. And then, like you said, from there on out, like nothing changed because everybody lost. And so I got the Panthers, the Bears, the Jets, and the Lions. And, there's not much to say about it. I think you covered them all pretty well. All these teams are in trouble, man. And they're all in different stages of being in trouble. The Giants are on the way down. The Panthers, man, they were supposed to be on the way up this year, but it's like they already ran out of steam. The Bears, they're on the way down. The Jets, they're like building. The Lions, I want to say are building, but it's just such a big rebuild for the Lions, it's hard to see it. And so, it's all good, man. Back to you for the dumpster fire, 31 and 32.
All right, at 31, I have the Jets. I mean, Jets have 2 wins this year. One apparently was against Houston, which I didn't realize. Um, and the other one was Cincinnati, was it?
Yeah, Cincinnati.
No,
They
they
beat
have
Cincinnati.
3 wins this year, not
Yes,
2.
yes, yes, yes. 3 wins. But yeah, two big upsets.
Beat Cincinnati and they beat the Titans because that's what I was like. I was like, I swear I thought they beat the Titans. And
That's
so wait
why
a
I've
minute,
got
the
that's why I've got
Titans
the Jets
lost
a
to
couple spots higher
the
because
Titans lost to the fucking Jets and the Texans.
that's what I'm saying, dude. And
Like,
I think for them it was all within like the first like 4 or 5 weeks, and then they just like went on a run and they just started beating people down.
it's, they lost to the fucking.
It's a fact. It's a fact.
It wasn't like it's kind of split up. Like they. So here's real quick. The Titans they lost to the Cardinals, beat the Seahawks, beat the Colts, lost to the Jets, beat the Jags, beat the Bills, beat the Chiefs, beat the Colts, beat the Rams, beat the Saints, lost to the Texans, lost to the Patriots,
Okay.
and then beat the Jaguars.
So they crushed it for a while and then they fell off. I got you. All right.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So I have the Jaguars at 32. I'm sure we're gonna hit more on the Jaguars.
Oh yeah.
And a little bit later, I will just say that the Jaguars are in a much better place right now, so they probably will be possibly
They're in a
probably
much
will
better
be
place.
going up the board a little bit.
Okay.
So
So
I will get to that in the question of the week because there's
sure,
a
yeah.
lot I have to say about that.
And I've got the Jags at 31, and I've got the Texans at 32. And you could move these couple teams around any which way you want. It probably should be reversed because, like you mentioned, Houston beat them. But I will say this, man, about last week, the Jags had 8 fucking rushing yards in that game against Tennessee. 8 fucking rushing yards. That is like it's just so pathetic, dude. It's just so pathetic. I can't even believe it.
Why the fuck do you bench your best running back for?
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
sorry, that's fantasy bitterness because I kept Robinson even though they drafted Etienne because Etienne got hurt, and I
Yeah.
kept him in our league because, and then you fucking bench him for fucking Carlos Hyde.
Yeah. Urban Meyer just I don't know. He's done. So it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's been a train wreck. Okay. Those are the power rankings. Let's move it over. Let's do our game picks. Last night we had the Chiefs at the Chargers. At the last minute there, James, you correctly swapped your pick to the Chiefs. I had the Chargers. I think it was a great game. I got to watch most of it and then I fell asleep on the couch. But, um, I was looking at my board and I was like, man, I was kind of surprised that I picked the Chargers because I had the Chiefs, you know, a decent amount higher on the board, and I know I was talking about their momentum, but I think it was because it was a home game for the Chargers, and I was also trying to get behind the whole thing about needing to put the Chargers higher up on my board. But either way, neither here nor there. It was a great game, and you got the pick. You've been closing the gap, you son of a bitch. In fact, I guess I should back up and talk about that before we get further into the picks. Here's where we stand, season to date. James, you got 117 wins. It's good for 57%. I'm sitting at 121 wins, which is good for 58%. I'm going the wrong way. You're going the right way. So, yeah, a couple weeks to go.
I would like to point out, and this is very important for me to point out, last week I only got 2 games wrong. I went 12-2. One of the games I was just dead wrong on, and the other game only was the Cardinals and the Rams. I got the San Francisco, Cincinnati. I was just dead wrong on the outcome of that game. The Rams and the Cardinals, I was hemming and hawing and almost picked the Rams. Like I was so close to picking the Rams, but I wanted to see it happen before I picked them, and I should have picked them, and I would have gone 13-1, and I would have been only 2 games behind you instead of where we sit now, where I'm 3 games behind you. Well, 4 games coming into this week, and then you add in last night, and I'm 3 games behind you.
Hey, either way, man, 12-2 is a strong fucking week. So nice. Pat yourself on the back for that. Here, whatever. I'm patting myself for you. Okay, so going to this weekend, we got the Raiders at the Browns, and it's all about COVID. Who do you like here, James?
So, if I'm being honest with you, if this game, there were no COVID implications in this game, there was nothing, the Browns weren't going through this huge outbreak, I would pick the Browns.
Yeah.
The Raiders are a fucking hapless team. They have no direction. They've outperformed where they are, or like how good of a team they are. And it's just they're just not good. But apparently, and this is the wildest stat, because everybody kills Derek Carr and says he can't lead the Raiders to a championship. This year, the Raiders are 6-7. Do I have that correctly? It's got to be 6-7. But
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Anyways, they are 6-0 when Derek Carr throws for 300 yards or more.
Okay.
They are 0-7 when he doesn't.
So you're saying let him pass more?
Yeah, they got to let him pass more. But either way, I don't think. I mean, who is it? Nick Mullins that's going to be probably playing quarterback for the Browns?
I believe so.
And it's sad because like that's gonna like Nick Mullins is gonna fucking determine if the Browns make the playoffs or not.
Well, and I'll say this. Mullins has actually had some decent games back when he was playing with the 49ers. But, it's still tough because Cleveland has Stefanski out. They've got a number of other people out. And so I think hey, they pulled it off last year in the freaking playoffs out of all fucking things. I just can't count on that again. And so I'm going with the Raiders here. And I just got to say, fuck you, COVID. Just go away. You're fucking with our football, man.
Yeah.
Next up, we got the Patriots at the Colts.
So this was probably one of the hardest games for me to pick this week. Like, I really like what I'm seeing out of both teams, even though the Patriots are 9-4 and the Colts are 7-6. The Colts have, Jonathan Taylor's been a beast.
Yep.
He's especially the last like 5 weeks, and which is crazy that like was it just last week or was it the week before? Even though Derrick Henry had been out for like a month, it was just like last week or the week before that Jonathan Taylor surpassed Henry in yards.
Yeah, I remember when Henry got hurt, Jonathan Taylor was 300 yards behind him at that
Yeah.
point in the year. And then Jonathan Taylor, I think one of the games he had 200 yards, and I mean he's just been tearing it up ever since. But yeah, I mean he was lagging big time up until that point.
Yeah. And what it boiled down to this pick is this New England team, how they're looking now, is back to those Brady New England teams where you just can't pick against them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with the Patriots.
Nice. I'm going with the Patriots as well. And I was doing a little bit of digging on them. It looks like the Pats are 18th in terms of their run defense, which I think is good for the Colts because obviously, their team is kind of running through the running game, if you will. But the thing is, we know Belichick is like the best guy out there at taking away a team's top weapon. And so I think if they can do that, it puts a lot of pressure on Indy's passing game. And the Patriots have one of the top units against the pass. And so, and like you're saying, this is just like a vintage fucking good Belichick Patriots team. So I'm going with them. Um, yeah, I'm going with them. So, and I think honestly, if the Colts are smart, because Belichick does that, where he takes out your top guy, I would be like sprinkling in fucking Naeem Hines a lot more than you would normally do in this game and just see if it throws the Patriots defense off because they're thinking shut down Jonathan Taylor. That's like goal number one for that defense. But yeah, either way, I'm with you on the Patriots. Next up, we got the Cowboys at the Giants.
All right, so Giants suck. Cowboys are going to win. The interesting thing I found this week is Dallas can clinch the playoffs this week.
Ooh,
If they win and Tampa Bay wins.
okay.
Or if they win and San Francisco loses. Or I'm not even going to go through the third option for that. Also, they can clinch the division if they win and Washington and Philly end up in a tie this week.
Okay.
Or Washington loses and strength of victory tiebreaker over the Eagles. Whatever. Point is the Cowboys can theoretically clinch the playoff or theoretically clinch the division this week, which is interesting. It feels like they're the first one that can do that. But the Giants just suck.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely on the Cowboys. Interested to see how the week ends up for them.
Yeah, I'm going with Dallas as well. It's a divisional matchup and it's in New York. So, yeah, hypothetically, anything can happen, any given Sunday, all that kind of fun stuff. But there's no way in hell I'm taking the Giants. I'm going with Dallas all the way. Next up, we got the Texans at the Jaguars.
So, if the Jaguars were to run the ball, they would take a lot of pressure off of Trevor Lawrence. He could just play easier, or not play easier. He would
less pressure, man. He'd play
less
better.
pressure on him. He could play freer. There's the word I was looking for. So interesting nugget against this. With Mills as their starting quarterback, the Houston Texans are 0-7.
Okay.
Plus the Jaguars, even though it was in the middle of the night on, what was that, Wednesday night, Thursday morning? Even though it was in the middle of the night, they fired their head coach. I think the team's better off firing their head coach. I think they'll run the ball with Robinson more instead of doing whatever the fuck they were doing before that. And I think the Jaguars will win.
Okay. No, I think you can make the argument either way here. And I think that, the line, when I checked it, I was kind of surprised. It has the Jags by 5, which to me, I'm like, these are two, in my opinion, equally shitty teams. And so I wouldn't have a spread bigger than 3 on this game. But either way, it's in Jacksonville. I was inclined to go that way. But ultimately, I decided to go with Houston. And one of the things I was looking at, which this was on ESPN, which was pretty cool that they broke this down. But the Golden Boy Trevor Lawrence, he's completing 58.2% of his passes with 9 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. Which on the flip side, Davis Mills, third round pick, is completing 65.8% of his passes with 8 TDs and 8 interceptions. And so, it's only one data point in this whole thing, but I like the ball security and the efficiency of Davis Mills more. Not that it's great, but I like it more than Trevor Lawrence. And I think when you get two sort of equally matched teams, whether they're good teams or shitty teams, two equally matched teams, a lot of times those games come down to the turnover battle. And that efficiency with Davis Mills could favor the Texans. And so that's where I went with Houston here. Next up, we got the Titans at the Steelers.
All right. I harped on it many times. Yeah, we can't trust the Titans, but the Steelers team is toast. Roethlisberger should just not come out to the game. They should find a new quarterback. Interesting thing about this game is Tennessee can clinch the AFC South with the help of New England. Because if Tennessee wins and the Colts lose, the Titans clinch their division.
Okay.
But I'm on Tennessee hardcore on this one. I don't trust Pittsburgh. I don't trust a team that ties the fucking Detroit Lions.
Yeah, man, it's tough. I don't know what the hell got into me, but earlier I was having a hard time picking this game, and I picked the Steelers at first, and then I flipped back. And I think it's like we talked about with Tennessee. They lost to the Jets, they lost to Houston. It's hard to trust them. And so it's like even though their record's fucking 9-4, it's like how do you have those shitty games? But I get it. You said it with Pittsburgh. They tied the Lions. And so both of these teams have had some very suspect games. Um, this one I like, and this was another one I read about, on ESPN talking about Pittsburgh is the league's worst run defense in terms of yards per carry. They're letting teams run 5 yards per carry against them, which sucks. And it's honestly it's a disgrace for a Steelers defense. It really is. But the Titans, even though Derrick Henry's out, they've been getting production from their committee of backs now. And so I think that kind of production helps open up the passing game, similar to like what you were talking about with Jacksonville if they commit to the run. And I think that that's going to be huge for Tennessee because A.J. Brown's still out. Um, and I just think it plays well to Tennessee's style. And so I'm going with the Titans. Next up, we got the Jets at the Dolphins.
So the Jets suck. The Dolphins are on the rise. Interesting thing about the Dolphins is if they win this week, they'll be the fourth team in NFL history to be 6 or more games below 500 to get back to 500. Not finish the season at 500, but get back to 500. That was, ironically, the first team to do it was the 1974 New York Jets, the 84 Packers, and the 2009 Titans.
Okay.
But Miami's just playing a lot better, and the Jets fucking blow.
Yeah.
So I'm on the Dolphins.
I'm with you. I'm taking the Dolphins as well. And I would say if you would have asked me this back in week 8, I might have wavered because back in week 8, I was looking it up earlier. The Dolphins were 1-7 in week 8, and the Jets in week 8 had upset wins over Tennessee and Cincinnati. And so it just, but week 8 is a long time ago now. And since then, the Dolphins have gotten their shit together. They're looking like the team that we thought they were going to be this year. And the Jets, on the other hand, they're looking exactly like the team we thought they were going to be this year, which is a team right smack at the start of a rebuild. And so I'm going with the Dolphins hands down. Next up, we got the Washington football team at the Philadelphia Eagles.
So I'm going to be honest with you. I picked the Eagles in this game because of the COVID issues at Washington. Washington's playing a lot better. Them postponing the game till Monday, or Tuesday, sorry. It is possible that I switch to Washington in this game because I don't trust Sirianni. I don't know who's playing quarterback for Philadelphia, but as it stands now, with as many players that that Washington has on the COVID list, I'm going with Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I'm taking the Eagles here too. I didn't overthink it at all. It's a COVID disaster. Philly's got so many guys out. I just had to take the Eagles. I didn't want to go further into it than that. Next up, we got the Cardinals at the Lions.
So regularly the Lions tie the Cardinals, even though they shouldn't fucking even be in the game or even beat the Cardinals. Didn't the Lions beat the Cardinals last year? And the Cardinals were like playing phenomenal. And that was part of the demise of the Cardinals. And
yeah, it was the year before Kyler's rookie year. They tied him. Yeah.
Fuck, I can't believe I'm gonna say this. Fuck.
You can get crazy if you want to get crazy, but just remember you're creeping closer on the picks.
I know.
So, do you want to be safe or aggressive? I mean, what do they say? Fortune favors the bold. So, you know, but, you got to live with your own choices. You want to die on that hill and pick the Lions? That's for you to do, man.
I can't pick the Lions. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm on Arizona.
Stick with Arizona.
I have this sense that there's a chance that the Lions could upset them.
Yeah.
But I just can't fucking pick them.
Yeah. No, I mean, hey, they had so many close games this year. Like they almost beat Baltimore. They should have beat Baltimore. I mean, it's like, you could call a trap game almost any week with the Lions, I think. And so it just isn't happening. But I'm going with the Cardinals. I think the Lions do have some extra incentive to save some face after what happened last week in Denver. But I mean, we'd be crazy to take the Lions. So I'm going with the Cardinals. Next up, we got the Panthers at the Bills.
Oh, on the Cardinals, if the Cardinals win, they clinch a playoffs. There's other scenarios, but they're going to win and clinch a playoff berth, which is great for them this week.
Sweet. Panthers and Bills.
Panthers and Bills. Sorry,
No, it's good.
I just got done talking about how fucking shitty the Panthers are looking this year. PJ Walker, Cam Newton don't seem to be able to play quarterback. So even though the Bills have been playing fairly crappy lately, they haven't been playing. I haven't been impressed with them at all. They've lost games where I'm going to go with the Bills. There's a hesitation because of how the Bills have been playing, not because I think the Panthers have a chance. It's just how the Bills have been playing.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm going with Buffalo here as well, and I think they have to win this game. When I look at Carolina, they've really been struggling on offense pretty much ever since those first couple weeks of the season, and we know that the Sam Darnold experience fizzled out. And I think that it's going to be challenging for them in this game because Buffalo is a top 10 or a top 5 unit against both the pass and the run. And so, I tried calling it last week with their desperation mode and they lost to the Bucks. I mean, this is really desperation mode now, sitting at 7-6. They're a way better team than that record reflects. If they don't get the win here, man, they're really going to fuck up their playoff picture. So I'm going Buffalo. They should win this game. They need to win this game. If they don't, I'm going to be like, what the fuck happened? And, they just pissed away their season. But, not that they would miss the playoffs, but they're getting close to having that problem. So, next up we got the Bengals at the Broncos.
So this is a pretty evenly matched game. The the Broncos' strength on their defense is their secondary, their pass defense, and that's how the Bengals have been winning games this
Yep.
year. Interestingly enough, apparently I didn't realize this, but last year in Carolina, Teddy Bridgewater had more than 3,000 yards, and if he needs 46 yards to have 3,000 yards this season again, and it'll be the first time in his career he's had 3,000 yards in consecutive seasons. This might even be the first time in his year he's played more than 10 games in consecutive seasons, but that's another story. I'm just holding on hope with the Bengals. Like it's at Denver. Yeah, Denver's playing great.
Mile High, and yeah.
But I'm just holding on hope with the Bengals, and I'm more picking this game on my heart than actually thinking about the matchup.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go with the Bengals.
Gotcha. I'm going with Denver, and I agree with everything you said. I think you got, Burrow's averaging 8.5 yards per pass attempt, which is top in the league. Denver's defense against the pass is top in the league, which is going to make the running game for Cincinnati more important. And Mixon's been running well lately. And then I think, you look at the quarterback matchup, and, it's Burrow's obviously better than Bridgewater. Bridgewater's safe. He's efficient most of the time. I'm kind of banking on the Denver D winning out here in Mile High, and then maybe that combination of Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams just running the ball really strong. But I mean, this was probably my tightest matchup in terms of having a hard time picking a team, and so I'm giving Denver the edge by like the slightest of margins. Next up, we got the Falcons at the 49ers.
So I don't like the Falcons. Interestingly,
I don't like the Falcons. I like the way you started that, James.
interesting fact is the 49ers are one of three teams Matt Ryan has more than 300 passing yards per game against, which in his career, which is weird. You would think as much as Matt Ryan throws the ball and as much as passing yards he gets, he would have more than three teams. It's the 49ers, it's the Bengals, and it's the Titans.
Okay.
Which is, I just find that strange. So the Atlanta is 0-4 against teams with winning records this year.
Oh.
And this is really an elimination game for one of these teams. One of these teams, the loser of this game, will not make the playoffs. I'm not saying the winner is going to make the playoffs. I'm just saying the loser will not.
Okay.
I just think the final score of this game might be 28-3 San Francisco. Catch the reference.
28-3.
Yeah.
What's the reference between these two teams?
Atlanta was up 28-3 against the Patriots in the Super Bowl when Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator.
Oh, okay. All right. You're pulling Shanahan into it. I got you. All right. I was like, wait a minute, Tom Brady's not playing in this game. I get it now. Thank you for leading me to that conclusion. I'm going with the 49ers here as well. And I just think that on paper, they're better than the Falcons. They should play better than the Falcons. It's at home. I'm going with the 49ers. I don't have faith in either of these teams. I guess I'm just going to say that. I think they both have had a bit of a letdown this year, but Atlanta more so than San Francisco. And I think that's because San Francisco just has more depth on both sides of the ball. It's hard to not pick them. And so I gotta give them a rip here. Next up, we got the Seahawks at the Rams. which is apparently a way bigger COVID thing than I thought when I made my pick. But go ahead, please.
See, I didn't know it was the Rams that were having the COVID issue. They just beat the Cardinals without Ramsey, and even if Ramsey doesn't play, the Cardinals are 50, 100 times better than the Seahawks. The Seahawks fucking blow.
Yeah.
And even with the COVID issues, whatchamacallit, Tyler Lockett with Seattle is on the COVID list too. I think Seattle might also have some COVID issues pop up over the next couple days.
Yeah.
And I'm going with the Rams. I think they're a far superior team than the Seahawks.
Yeah, man, I think you covered it pretty well. You know, the Rams, they're sitting at 9-4. The Seahawks are sitting at 5-8. You know, at this point of the year, you know the Rams are that much better. If that gap wasn't so big, you know, maybe you could say, oh, you know, Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, you know, anything can happen. But I think you got to go with the Rams here, and so I'm that's what I'm doing too. Next up, we got the Packers at the Ravens, and Lamar may or may not play.
May or may not play. So the Packers can clinch the NFC North with a win, a tie, or a loss or a tie from the Vikings, or by the Vikings. They can also clinch the playoffs if they lose and if they lose and the Saints and the 49ers lose. It's just crazy to say if this was last year, if there wasn't a concern about a hobbled Lamar, I probably would be 100% on the Ravens. But the Packers are just playing too good right now for me to do anything but pick them to win.
Okay. Yeah, and I've got the Packers at my number 2 spot on the board. And so I think it's with or without Lamar, I give the Packers the edge. You know, if Lamar's out, obviously it like swings it big time in Green Bay's favor, but I'm going with the Packers here. Next up, we got the Saints at the Buccaneers.
They win. The Bucs clinch the NFC South and obviously make the playoffs. The tide's you thought the tide was turning in this matchup. Brady is actually weirdly 1-2 against. No, I'm sorry, 1-3 against the Saints as a Buccaneer.
Oh wow!
You remember that he lost earlier this year to them. He lost both 2 regular season games last year to him. He only won the playoff game. I can't pick the Saints though. Like, I mean, who's playing? Taysom Hill's playing quarterback for them. Yeah, Kamara could have a good game, but it's just I can't get behind Taysom Hill winning a game, especially against Brady.
So I'll give you a little fun fact here, and I'm taking the Buccaneers. I'll just start by saying that. I did some digging, and I was surprised to find out that the Saints are the league's worst team in terms of passing completion percentage. And now, obviously, that's as a group because they've had a handful of quarterbacks this year between Winston and, you know, Taysom Hill and, you know, Trevor Siemian. But they're sitting at 58% completion percentage, which is worse than the Jags, who are sitting at 58.3%. And so, you know, I mean, I'm just going to go for that reason. You know, I'm sure you could find many others, but I'm going with the Buccaneers. And that, I mean, geez, I never would have thought that out of a Sean Payton team, by the way. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Next up, we got the Vikings at the Bears. James, I don't know, dude. You know, to you, I see you getting ready to jump on something. Something about this game makes me nervous, man. I don't know if it's because Minnesota should be the obvious pick, but they just keep letting people down this year. and losing games when they're up and whatever. Uh, I don't know. I mean, I'm taking the Vikings, but tell me what you think.
Okay, so this game's at Soldier Field. In the last 21 games that the Minnesota Vikings have played at Soldier Field in Chicago, they are 5-16.
And I think Cousins is what, 1-9 on Monday Night Football.
That's the next stat I was going to say, and
Oh man.
that's why it's not obvious to pick Minnesota. And then you have the fact that as a home underdog, the Bears are 0-4 against the spread. They're 2-8 overall against the spread overall as an underdog. I really, really want to throw my support behind Minnesota, but I don't think Kirk Cousins can get it done on Monday Night Football, so I'm going to switch it up and go with Chicago.
Okie dokie, let me update. All right, well, that gives us 4 games. We got some action this week. Well, one already in the books, but okay. So let's move to next Thursday. We got the 49ers at the Titans.
You're picking Minnesota?
Oh, yeah, I'm picking Minnesota. Yeah. Sorry.
Right.
I thought
no, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where my head was at, but yes, I'm going with Minnesota
You kind of hem and hawed at it.
Yeah, despite my nervousness about this game, I'm going with Minnesota. And I don't know. I feel like they should win, but I'm glad that you supported why I feel like I'm nervous about it, because there's a lot to back that up. All right, so next Thursday, we've got the 49ers at the Titans. And we're actually going to be doing this on Wednesday next week, right? So we could kind of save it, but for the sake of sticking with our rhythm here, who do you like for Thursday night?
I don't trust them, but it's going to be the Titans.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that as we get closer, I'll probably take a deeper dive. The record is kind of like the big thing I'm hanging my head on. They're sitting at 9 wins compared to San Francisco's 7 wins. And, I'm just going to roll with that for now. So, but there's a lot that can change between now and then, especially with all this crazy ass COVID shit. So, cool. That is the week 15 game picks. Let's move it on over to our question of the week, and let's get ready to wrap this shit up. So, James, for tonight, I'm going with something light. It's just a silly question, but I've got to ask. Last week we were talking about whether or not, in our question of the week, should the Jags fire Urban Meyer? And so my question of the week this week is a follow-up to that. Do you think the Jags owner, Shad Khan, was listening to our show last week? And, I'm just going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to assume he's one of our 8 subscribers, and that the voice of Gridiron Grinder is just that much more powerful than we thought. And so, I know I'm being silly, but what do you think, man?
I would say that, but then I go through. You go through everything that fucking happened while he was there. The strength and conditioning coach, like, we hit all of this, and apparently the straw that broke
kicking Lambeau
Camel's back was the article about Josh Lambeau, whatever the fuck his first name is. Was it Josh?
I'm pretty sure it's Josh Lambeau, the kicker.
Yeah, Josh Lambeau, where Meyer kicked him, not fairly hard, but still kicked him, and Lambeau turned around and said, "Don't fucking kick me," or it said something like, "Hey, dipshit, make your kicks," and as he kicked him, and Lambeau was like, "Don't fucking kick me," and Meyer's like, "I'm the fucking head ball coach. I'll kick you whenever the fuck I want." It's like, you know what, dude? Fuck you. Like, get the fuck out of here with that shit.
It's disgraceful.
And then in the middle of the night, like, it was at like midnight Eastern time, Shad Khan fucking announces that he fired him. It's like,
Yeah.
you should have fucking fired him on Tuesday or 48 hours earlier when you said you're not going to make hasty decisions on him. There's like all this shit that happened. You had the Lambo thing. You had fucking not Marvin Jones. Is it Marvin Jones?
Marvin Jones was bitching about him.
Marvin Jones fucking walked out of the fucking facility and had to be convinced by other coaches to come back in because of how he was treating the players. You had Trevor Lawrence calling him up for benching John Robinson. You had James Robinson. You had benching James Robinson in the first place. You have Meyer fucking questioning the credentials of his coaches he signed.
Yeah, doing inappropriate shit at the strip club or what, all sorts of
At
stuff.
the restaurant he owns. It's like, good Lord. I honestly wonder if Urban Meyer was trying to fucking get fired with all the shit that's coming out.
Maybe he wanted to get fired so he could go and take that fucking Notre Dame job. I don't know.
Yeah, but with the shit that happened at the restaurant with dancing with the girl and shit, Notre Dame's not going to hire him.
Well, maybe he wanted USC, but it's too late now because they filled it.
Yeah.
All right, we're back, minus some technical difficulties. And so, James, you were going on a nice little rant there about Urban Meyer. And, I was just kind of saying that it's one of these things where it's sad when you finally get like the full picture on somebody, especially a guy like him that's had a lot of success at college, mostly in the college level. Obviously, he hasn't done shit in the NFL, but you start to see this and you're like, wow, despite this guy's success, he's like truly a fucking piece of shit that's just bad to other people. And it's like, couldn't you just be good and successful by being good? Like, I don't know, but it's all out there now. And so whatever happens with him next, I'm going to be really interested to see. I know that some people, they've jokingly talked about, oh, maybe the Lions should go after him or whatever else. But I don't know, dude. It just seems like this guy, he should be kind of shunned for a while if he ever even gets another gig, in my opinion.
Well, but that's the thing, is the writing was on the wall before he was hired by Jacksonville.
Yeah.
You had the circumstances for why he left Ohio State. It wasn't because of health. It was because he I forget the coach's name that was like abusing his wife. You have the stuff at Florida that happened with Hernandez and covering that shit up. It's everything everywhere he goes. Like, you go back to Bowling Green and there were scandals with Meyer. It's just like everywhere he's gone. It's kind of like Brian Kelly. Like, I'm waiting for that shoe to drop with Notre Dame, because you had, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, you had shit dropped with Grand Valley. You had shit dropped with Central after he left. You had a little bit dropped with Cincinnati after he left. So it's like scandals always follow a couple of these coaches, and it's like people don't catch on that if you keep hiring them, you're gonna have this shit happen when they go.
Yes, and thank you for covering it so well. And yeah, this guy, fuck him. You're out of here. See you later. But all right, so James, that's the question of the week. And for anybody who's still watching, just like Name That Stadium, we'd love you to hit us up and, answer our question of the week if you think the Jags owner is watching our show. It'd be cool if you said yes. And so, James, that's all I got for tonight, man. Anything before we shut it down?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, just closing it off. We hope anybody who's watching, we hope you liked it. If you did, give us a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed already, hit that button. And we do this stuff every week. Gridiron Grinder, year and a half strong here, James. And like always, man, it was fun. I hope you have a good night.
All right, you too.
All right. See ya.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.